Like I said, judgment was delivered on 31st January 2025. We received the signed judgment on Sunday, 2nd February 2025. We rendered advice dated 3rd February 2025. As you can see, the record speed. And we advised as follows, Right Honorable Speaker, that 1, all pending criminal trials in the General Court Martial should cease forthwith. 2, that the General Court Martial in liaison with prisons authorities should provide a list of all criminal cases involving civilians pending before the General Court Martial for onward transmission to the courts to determine the appropriate court to handle the matter. 3, the General Court Martial should provide a list of all pending criminal cases involving members of the UPDF pending before the court martial that fall within the categories of transfer for onward transmission to the courts for determination of the appropriate court to handle the matter. 4, the Director of Public Prosecutions is advised to liaise with the General Court Martial and the UPDF to take over the conduct of the ongoing criminal trials that have been identified for transfer. 5, the Uganda Prisons Authorities are advised to await the process above and orders of competent courts regarding any matters concerning detention of accused persons hitherto facing trial in the military courts. 6, the Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs is also advised to immediately commence consideration of the recommendations of the Supreme Court with a view to introducing appropriate amendments to the UPDF Act. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, I have also written to the Honorable the Chief Justice and requested the Honorable the Chief Justice to advising him that we have commenced the implementation of the court orders and sought for advice on the person with whom the DPP should liaise for purposes of effecting these orders. I thank you, Right Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. The Attorney General, that he was able, that he, unlike the tweets that we saw, which clearly said that these suspects or some of them would not be released, at least the Attorney General has indicated the willingness to have the court order implemented, notwithstanding, of course, instances where he must have read these orders upside down. Right Honorable Speaker and Honorable colleagues, as the Attorney General was communicating, I have been really touched and concerned about a number of issues. The Attorney General knows very well that a person can only be held in prison on a valid warrant. The order of court, which literally dismantled, and I mean literally, not technically, dismantled the orders of the defunct court-martial, caused the warrants upon which these people were remanded to expire. But in the case of retired Colonel Dr. Kizza Besigye and Haj Obeid Kamlegea, even without the orders of the Supreme Court, the warrant itself was expiring on Monday, yesterday, and it did expire. So, my question to the Attorney General, currently for these people or persons that are being held, on whose orders, on whose valid warrants do they continue to be in prison? The second, Right Honorable Speaker, relates to the DPP liaising with the General Court Martial. What is the DPP's business? The DPP is empowered under the law to commence prosecutions against any person of her choice, provided there is evidence she has before her. The reverse is not true, that the DPP goes around fishing for cases. Number 3, Right Honorable Speaker, but this time they are telling the DPP to be the one to go around fishing cases from persons that have been conducting business illegally. Do not forget that until Friday, 31st, there was a decision of the Constitutional Court which declared that this is not a court of law. So whatever they've been doing, they secured an interim order from the Supreme Court, and the order was to stay execution. Execution in this case was purely the transfer of files from the general court martial or from the courts martial to the civil courts. You could not stay a declaration. You can't stay a declaration. That declaration, that interim order was used by the general court martial, not DPP, to continue and to commence fresh prosecutions. Thirdly, Right Honorable Speaker, from the Attorney General's communication, I have not even had anything to do with timelines. Timelines, so as long as they are doing their consultations, these people can be in prison now on orders of the Attorney General. Where, under the law, does the Attorney General get the powers to remand or continue an illegal remand or to detain? Literally what he has done is to amend the orders of court. Finally, I received information from the Honorable Semuju.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker and members. Right Honorable Speaker, as a law student and a practitioner, the basic principle we are taught and we learn and practice is that judgments of court, particularly the Supreme Court, are judgments in rem. They are not in personam. Meaning that all must abide not only the Attorney General, but the constitutional order in the country must listen and adhere. So, number two, the Land Attorney General, Right Honorable Speaker, did his best when he made arguments before the Supreme Court. He did his best. That is the best he could offer. Now for this House to demand and to expect a better alternative from him, I think would be too much. That is the best he could offer. He stayed the Constitutional Court order. He ran to the Supreme Court, prepared himself, robed himself, got all his entourage with wheels and cattle. He proceeded to the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, he couldn't do better than he did in the Constitutional Court.
What is the procedure
To that
matter,
regard,
Honorable?
Right Honorable Speaker.
I need the procedure matter.
Yes, for this House to expect a procedural guidance from the Land Attorney General, when he had failed to convince the 7 justices of the Supreme Court, Mr. Speaker, sir, would be a big disservice, not only to this country, but to Parliament. And lastly, Mr. Speaker, I listened in very well. Once you talk about the Constitution, it is the paramount and the fundamental law we have. In his statement, I heard him say that the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecutions, should liaise with the General Court Martial to get files and process those files. Right, Honorable Speaker, for purposes of record and the hazard of this House, Article 120 of the Constitution is the Director of Public Prosecutions. And Clause 6 states, in the exercise of the functions conferred on him or her by this article, the Director of Public Prosecutions shall not be subject to the direction or control of any person or authority. By the Land Attorney General telling the DPP to go and liaise with the General Court Martial is in total breach of this Constitution. And I would therefore like to say that his guidance, even now, is continuing to offend this Constitution. And therefore, I would pray that we give him leave so that he can rest, he can think about the events of this country, he can choose whether he wants to take the country the constitutional path or he wants to take this country in the dark times, and without any delay, comply with the Constitution, with the Supreme Court orders, and release these persons detained so that now the country can breathe a sigh of relief. Without that, whatever explanation is talking about, he's wasting the time of this House and is continuing to agonize the constitutional order of this country. And I pray that anymore, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Thank you. Now, just wait, Attorney
Thank
General.
you.
Just wait. Yeah.